From New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit, focus on bridging the gap between theory and practice on AI. Country sharply divided over fossil fuel phase out at COP28. EU, US, Ireland's urge phase out. OPEC opposes COP29 to be held in Azerbaijan. IMF grants Ukraine additional $900 million disbursement. Zelensky to meet US President and top congressional officials seeking continued military aid. High jumpers Varun Singh Bhatti and Nishat Kumar bagged gold at Khelo India Para Games. India will be hosting the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit beginning Tuesday. Now, the GPAI is a forum of 28 nations and the European Union that is working together to address the challenges and opportunities of artificial intelligence and to promote its responsible evolution. Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be inaugurating the three-day summit on Tuesday evening.
More than 150 delegates from 29 member countries, as well as some visitor countries like the UAE, will gather in New Delhi to participate in the worldwide platform on artificial intelligence, or the GPAI, of which India is the incoming chairman.
Today, the world looks up to India for technology solutions. The world wants to partner with India for co-creation of technologies. The world looks for thought leadership on key issues like 6G, key issues like AI.
India would be aiming at building a consensus amongst the member nations for a declaration document on AI by the end of the summit, which would focus on AI promoting innovation and dealing with risks it poses.
We are negotiating a declaration document, which we hope we'll be able to arrive at some consensus. Basically, today the world's thinking on AI is kind of converging. People understand the dangers, people understand the potential, people look up to the benefits which can come, and people also, the entire world wants to put certain guardrails.
Upon India's insistence, the use of AI for sustainable agriculture is an area that has been added to the summit agenda. The focus of the last GPAI held at Osaka in Japan was on responsible AI. The recent Bletchley Declaration after the AI Safety Summit in the UK last month is also likely to find resonance in the declaration to be adopted at GPAI in Delhi. Amritpal Singh for DD India.
Famed investor Warren Buffett said at a company meeting that you cannot uninvent it, but there is growing worry about the role artificial intelligence will play in the future. According to a recent Pew Research survey, over half of Americans are more concerned than excited by the technology, with challenges ranging from data privacy to job displacement. Patrick Folk explores some of the issues at stake and looks at what's being done to address them.
It's estimated today that there are more than 1 billion security cameras worldwide. They're tracking and recording every move and every moment. With the advent of artificial intelligence, experts say we're seeing a seismic shift towards autonomous surveillance systems, with the ability to process vast amounts of data and identify patterns and anomalies to create a new world of possibilities for law enforcement and security. It's also ripe for abuse. This was one of the key sticking points on a European Union rulebook to regulate AI.
Europe has positioned itself as a pioneer.
Members reached a provisional deal on Friday to move forward with the legislation. They agreed governments can only use real-time biometric surveillance in public spaces to prevent specific threats like terrorist attacks or to search for suspects in serious crimes.
This is yes, I believe, a historic day.
Untargeted scraping of facial images on the internet to create facial recognition databases or social scoring based on social behavior, for example, are banned. The draft rules paved the way for the EU to become the first major world power to enact laws governing AI. But not everyone is happy. Rights groups say the deal effectively means the EU has taken a step towards legalizing live public facial recognition. For many people, that's a step backwards in privacy protection. According to Pew Research, data privacy is the leading concern among Americans when it comes to the negative impacts of artificial intelligence. It's just one of a myriad challenges in setting guardrails to prevent misuse of the technology. But AI is already revolutionizing industries, and the clock is ticking for governments to set standards on everything from the dissemination of information to ethics and more.
It'll be unthinkable not to have intelligence integrated into every product and service. It'll just be an expected, obvious thing.
According to Bloomberg Intelligence, the generative AI market could be worth as much as $1.3 trillion in the next 10 years. That's compared to a market size of about $40 billion in 2022. And it covers an array of industries. But with so much at risk, governments must balance the benefits and address the issues at stake without stifling opportunity.
I think there are huge possibilities, and I'm concerned that so much of the conversation is negative rather than looking also at the same time as some of the incredible ways of harnessing this never-before-seen power, which could be a huge, huge boost.
The European Union's AI Act could act as a blueprint for countries around the world to enact legislation, but there's likely still a long road to go before comprehensive and effective regulation falls into place. Patrick Fogg in Singapore for DD India.
With barely few hours left for the concluding session of the COP28 climate summit in Dubai, nearly 200 countries remain sharply divided on the contentious issue of fossil fuels. A draft of a potential climate deal at the COP28 summit on Monday suggested a range of options that countries could take to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but omitted the phase-out of fossil fuels many nations have demanded. The draft that has set the stage for a final round of negotiations has exposed deep international divisions over whether oil, gas and coal should have a place in climate-friendly future. The COP28 president, Sultan Al Jaber, had an urgent tone on Monday night when he asked negotiators to find consensus.
Norway wants a phase out of fossil fuels, and we use the G7 language, phase out of unabated fossil fuels. The same is true for the United States, which is a fossil producer, for Canada, for Australia, and for many of the countries that are producing oil and gas. We recognize that we need to save the planet, we need to phase that out. It has to be an orderly and just transition, but the end game is that we have an energy system with no emissions. And to have an energy system with no emissions, it has to be based on non-emitting sources.
In that position, we want to get what we came here to fight for.
Also, big powers like the US and the EU that have pushed for a phase-out were not pleased, and tiny ones like Samoa and the Marshall Islands were calling it a death sentence.
If we do not have strong mitigation outcomes at this COP, then this will be the COP where 1.5 would have died. We will not sign our gift certificate. We cannot sign on to text that does not have strong commitments on phasing out fossil fuels. As SIDS, we feel our voices are not being heard, while it appears that several other parties have enjoyed preferential treatment, compromising the transparency and inclusivity of the process.
Democratic Senator Ed Markey, part of a 7-member team of U.S. senators visiting the talks, said OPEC as well as oil and U.S. companies were attempting to whitewash the crisis that has been created by fossil fuels.
COP should conclude with a final statement that says that the world wants to end this addiction. It wants to phase out fossil fuels. OPEC does not want to phase out fossil fuels. They made that very clear yesterday. They want a discussion at this COP about emissions reductions without talking about the fossil fuels.
Meanwhile, the COP28 climate summit in Dubai on Monday approved a proposal to hold the next iteration of the annual event in the Central Asian Republic of Azerbaijan.
Dear Mr. President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored and humbled by the opportunity to address this esteemed gathering of the 28th session of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Our sincere gratitude goes out to the Convention Secretariat and the host country, United Arab Emirates, for their tireless efforts in organizing this extraordinary event. The challenges we face demand collective action and dedication to the commonly agreed objectives and aspirations. Azerbaijan understands the critical importance of collaborative efforts to combat climate change.
International Monetary Fund's Executive Board on Monday approved a $900 million disbursement for Ukraine from its $15.6 billion loan program as IMF Chief Kristalina Georgieva met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington. The IMF said the Ukrainian economy continued to show remarkable resilience despite Russia's invasion in February 2022. Georgieva congratulated Zelensky on the positive economic growth amid the war and pledged continued support for Ukraine.
Inflation in Ukraine continues to go down to 5.1% in November. Many countries around the world envy you for that achievement, and the governance of the country strengthens from a month to a month. We will continue to work closely with Ukraine, and we will continue to call on those who support Ukraine to remain steadfast in their financial support.
Zelensky thanked the IMF and international allies for their ongoing support and praised the resilience of the people during the ongoing war.
We really demonstrated that we can reform our country during the war. From our side, we are thankful for these, our warriors, and of course, USA partners and European partners for our air defending shield. It really helps, and we will continue. To do this and to make our cities more secure. It's very important that also we had good dialogue, and we are thankful to IMF, Kristalina, that I heard now and see it that you will support us financially.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is expected to make a crucial pitch to the U.S. lawmakers on Tuesday as fate of billions of dollars of U.S. assistance for Ukraine remains in limbo. Republicans say they are not willing to approve the new funding unless the Democrats and President Biden concede to major immigration policy changes on the U.S. southern border. Kate Fisher spells out more details from Washington.
On his third visit to Washington, D.C. since Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, President Zelensky is making a last-ditch plea to Congress for more funding. The White House says the visit will, quote, underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine. But time is running out to see that support continue. Republican senators last week blocked $106 billion in emergency aid, which was primarily for Ukraine and Israel, because the package didn't contain the immigration reforms they demanded. US President Joe Biden's warned that a failure to pass the new funding would hand Russian President Vladimir Putin a victory and embolden him to invade more European countries. Congress has already passed billions of dollars worth of military and economic funding for Ukraine, but securing additional money to help it continue to defend its country against Russia has become harder, as more Republicans have questioned the scale of the funding and how it's being used. President Zelensky has not yet been invited to speak in the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, though he will meet the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, and he's been invited to speak at an all-senators meeting on Tuesday morning. He's expected to give a press conference later in the day after his White House meeting with President Biden. Kate Fisher in Washington reporting for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time for a short break, but when we come back, we tell you how Rishi Sunak faces tense UK parliamentary showdown over Rwanda asylum plan. Lawmakers to vote on his divisive plan on Tuesday. Venezuela looks to boost oil and gas exploration amid dispute with Guyana. Presidents of both the sides to meet on Thursday. With Christmas fervor setting in, Colombian families had a fun-filled time aboard Christmas Express in Bogota. Stay with us for a quick sneak peek in the celebrations.
This is a story of Dal Lake of Naya Kashmir.
मैं बड़ी होकर ऑफिसर बनने चाहती हूँ। दूसरी बात मैं पुलिस बननी चाहती हूँ।
बहुत काम आया, उसका टूरिस्ट आया, उसका काम बहुत जलता है। यहाँ पे तो अभी बहुत कुछ बदला है। यहाँ का जो अभी गवर्नमेंट है, उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ किया यहाँ पे। 2-3 सालों से यहाँ पे बहुत टूरिज्म आ रहा है।
Has the post Article 370 abrogation change, the impact of it also percolated when it comes to the local fishing community?
हर एक यहाँ पे ₹10 कमा रहा है।
यहाँ पर लोग आते हैं घूमने के लिए, फिर वो खरीदारी करते हैं शॉल्स, पेपर मशी, अखरोट लकड़ का, क्योंकि यहाँ भी लोग हैं ना, रोजी इनकी भी चलती है यहाँ से।
After 38 years, I have seen tremendous change in this place.
हमारा कश्मीर जो है सबसे खूबसूरत डल लेक, शांति है यहाँ पे।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to more international updates. The United States says that it is deeply concerned following the news that jailed Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny has gone missing. His lawyers say that they have lost contact with Navalny and don't know where he is currently being held. Nick Harper gets us the details from Washington.
It's thought that Alexei Navalny was being held in a penal colony where he's serving his 19-year sentence. However, for a week now, his lawyers have been unable to contact him. Indeed, they don't even know where exactly he's being held. They say on Friday they contacted 2 colonies where they thought that he had been detained, only to be told he was at neither facility. His lawyers say he's now been missing for at least 6 days. According to his legal team, Navalny was scheduled to appear in court via video link on Monday, but prison authorities informed his team that electricity issues meant he was not able to appear as planned. The United States is worried. The US National Security Council spokesman John Kirby saying the Biden administration is deeply concerned by the news, saying they've not received any news about him or his whereabouts. Speaking to reporters on board Air Force One, Kirby said Washington was going to work with the US Embassy in Moscow to try and get more information. He also said Navalny should be released immediately, adding he should never have been jailed in the first place. The White House has previously spoken out against the jailing of Navalny. US President Joe Biden has called his treatment of the Kremlin critic totally unfair and totally inappropriate. Navalny was convicted of extremism, claims his supporters say were politically motivated to prevent his opposition and criticism of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
A Chinese naval formation led by the aircraft carrier Shandong sailed through the Taiwan Strait on Monday, Taiwan's defense ministry said. The Shandong, commissioned in 2019, last transited the sensitive strait in early November. The latest sailing comes about 1 month before presidential and parliamentary elections on the island. DD India correspondent Andrew Wood joins us live from Hong Kong. Andrew, good morning. How would you gauge the timing of this development, given that this latest sailing comes about 1 month before the presidential and the parliamentary elections on the island?
Well, I think Beijing is just reminding Taiwan, and it's reminded Taiwan a lot over the past year, especially that it has a more powerful navy, a more powerful military force, and also that the strait between Taiwan and the mainland of China is Chinese waters. Now, the Taiwanese and the Americans and many other countries consider that those waters as international waters, and every so often the Americans will send, and their allies will sometimes send warships through there. But it's just another case, another opportunity for, as I say, for Beijing to remind Taiwan that it's there and it's powerful.
All right, so it is reminding Taiwan it is there and powerful. But Andrew, what has been the international response to this? Because China has been saying that Taiwan Strait is not an international waterway and that it alone has the sovereignty there. Do the US and Taiwan buy this argument?
No, they don't. And of course, China has, even if it's, even if you accept the argument that it's international waters, of course, China has the right to send its naval forces along there. And given that the length of the coast of mainland China, then it's not unexpected that it would do this. But it is a problem. China seems to be more and more assertive of saying that it controls areas, or areas of sea are its territorial waters, which nobody else recognizes those claims. It's not just, of course, the Taiwan Strait. Perhaps the bigger flashpoint is probably the South China Sea, and we've seen certainly over the past few days another confrontation between the Chinese and the Philippines in an area of close to a disputed shoal or reef that's only less than 200 kilometers from the mainland of the Philippines, but is more than 1,000 kilometers from the mainland of China, and China claims it as its own territorial waters.
All right, Andrew, thank you for joining in with those details. Now let's shift focus to Israel-Hamas conflict. The 193-member General Assembly is scheduled to vote on a draft resolution that is similar to the one blocked by the United States in the 15-member Security Council last week. The current draft resolution aims to bring immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the besieged Gaza Strip. The vote was due a day after 12 Security Council envoys visited the Egyptian side of the Rafah border crossing with Gaza, the only place where limited humanitarian aid and fuel have entered. But the United States did not send a representative on the trip. As per some diplomats and observers, the vote will garner greater support than the Assembly's October call for an immediate, durable and sustained humanitarian truce. Moreover, the United States has shown concern over the reports claiming Israel using U.S.-supplied white phosphorus munitions in a Lebanon attack. The U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller reiterated that legitimate military use for white phosphorus is allowed, but that does not include using them on civilians.
We are concerned by the reports of the use of white phosphorus. Obviously, there is a legitimate military use for white phosphorus, but that does not include using them on civilians. Israel is engaged in a very difficult military campaign against a terrorist organization that says it wants to repeat the attacks of October 7th. He decided that with respect to this sale, this was ammunition that they needed on an urgent basis, and so it necessitated an emergency authorization to provide those munitions. But that does not in any way lessen their obligation to act in full compliance with international humanitarian law.
Refuting U.S. reports' claims, Israeli army said that Israeli troops are operating legally and according to the international law.
Regarding the issue of phosphorus activated in Lebanon, we are operating in one clear way, legally and according to international law. This is how we operate. This is how we exert force both in the north and in the south, and this is how we will continue to operate.
Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that Israel had no intention of staying permanently in the Gaza Strip and that it was open to discussing alternatives about who would control the territory as long as it was not a group hostile to Israel.
Israel will take any measures in order to destroy Hamas, but we have no intention to stay permanently in Gaza Strip. We only take care of our security and the security of our citizens alongside the borders with Gaza and elsewhere.
Continuing its ground operations, Israeli forces bombarded Gaza on Monday. Flares and explosions lit up the sky due to the airstrike. After the collapse of a week-long ceasefire on 1st December, Israel has since pushed from the east into the heart of the city of Khan Yunis, with warplanes attacking an area to the west. Israeli army also released a video on Monday showing weapons from inside a mosque in Jabalia, northern Gaza. In the video, an unidentified member of the Israeli armed forces narrates some of the footage in which he exhibits areas within the mosque where the army said it found weapons and a Hamas training area. As we enter the home stretch in the lead-up to 2024 Republican presidential primary, Donald Trump continues to dominate the polls, but his closest rival, Indian American Nikki Haley, is gaining momentum. She held her own as she traded barbs with her rivals during the last presidential debate before primary voting begins. Our U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher gets more.
With Donald Trump once again absent from the debate stage, the night was all about who could challenge the clear frontrunner in the Republican race.
Nikki is corrupt. This is a woman who...
The answer was pretty clear from the off. The knives were out for former UN Ambassador Indian American Nikki Haley.
You have other candidates up here like Nikki Haley. She caves anytime the left comes after her, anytime the media comes after her.
Ron DeSantis's repeated attacks on Haley were the clearest sign that the Florida governor is no longer seen as the strongest challenger to Trump.
That's not true.
Nikki Haley's recent endorsements from wealthy conservative donors also led to criticism from her rivals, but she was quick to respond.
They're just jealous. They wish that they were supporting them, but I'm not going to sit there and...
Her star may be rising, but Donald Trump still leads her by around 50 percentage points, according to aggregates of national opinion polls.
It helps Trump.
Whit Ayres, a political strategist and pollster of more than 30 years, says there is a chance for her to close that gap, but it's a slim one.
Nikki Haley has a path to defeating Donald Trump. It's a narrow path, to be clear about it, but it is a path. She is a gifted politician. She has a strong record as governor of South Carolina, as well as ambassador to the United Nations. She's very good on her feet. She's very disciplined. She can counterpunch very, very well. And she has put herself in second place.
She is a woman and a woman of color. She's Indian American. Both things that are not necessarily typical in presidential candidates. How do you think either of those factors can either help or hinder her?
I think it helps her dramatically because it puts a very different face on a Republican Party that is seen by its critics as just a party of old white men. She's shown that you can be successful as an Indian woman of color in the American political system.
But she still faces huge hurdles as Donald Trump maintains a strong lead with time running out.
There are only a few weeks left until states begin to choose who they want to be their leader. Despite some headwind, Nikki Haley still has her work cut out if she's to stand a chance of making history and becoming the first female Indian American presidential candidate. Kate Fisher in Washington reporting for DD India.
From US to UK now, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is facing a battle to persuade Tory MPs to back his flagship Rwanda bill ahead of a key vote. The legislation seeks to revive the government's plan to send some asylum seekers to the East African country. MPs on the right of the party have said the bill does not go far enough and will not work in its current form. But more centrist MPs warned against any changes which would breach international law. Parliament will hold the first vote on the draft law today evening. It would only take about 30 Conservative members of the Parliament to vote with opposition parties to defeat the bill. The French Parliament voted down a flagship immigration bill of President Emmanuel Macron's government, prompting his Interior Minister to offer to resign over the failure. Macron rejected the offer from Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin to step down, instead ordering him to find new ways to break the deadlock and push the legislation through. The Lower House National Assembly adopted a motion to reject the controversial immigration bill without even debating it. MPs from the far right, far left and moderate right and left voted to reject the bill. The government says the bill aims both to control immigration and better integrate the migrants. Outside the National Assembly, asylum seekers and citizens gathered to voice protest at the proposed bill. Venezuela has started working up on its ambition to revive an offshore natural gas field close to the maritime border with Guyana. Venezuela has begun contacting energy firms involved in a long-idled offshore natural gas project. Venezuelan president is seeking revival of an offshore project at Plataforma Deltana, shared with Trinidad and Tobago, with some 8 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves. Now, this project is the closest energy project that Venezuela has to the waters in dispute with Guyana. Thus, amid escalating territorial dispute, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro will meet with Guyana President Mohamed Irfan Ali on Thursday. A quick look at other stories which are making it to the headlines from across the world. The Colombian Navy announced the seizure of hundreds of tons of illegal drugs as part of a 45-day campaign to crack down on international drug trafficking. The international anti-narcotics operation, led by the multinational Orion Naval Campaign, involved 42 countries on 4 continents and resulted in a record 195 tons of cocaine, 175 tons of marijuana, and 14 tons of seized hashish. As the world prepares to celebrate Christmas, all boarded the Christmas Express in Bogota. Colombian families took a ride on the steam train adorned with Christmas lights, with Santa Claus and the elves. Youngsters and their parents were delighted by the locomotive, eager to share the festival of joy with their families. Musicians set the mood for the evening by playing Christmas carols and encouraging young passengers to sing along. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon wins this year's Diwali Stamp Lifetime Achievement Award. In a special report after the break, we get to the details. We also get you more on Viksit Bharat at 2047, Voice of Youth, a vision of Prime Minister Modi to make India a developed country by 2047. Prayers for peace and to dispel the evil of the previous year mark the Tibetan religious ceremony called Gutor. Stay with us to see how Gutor is conducted.
This is a story of Dal Lake of Naya Kashmir.
मैं बड़ी होकर ऑफिसर बनने चाहती हूँ। दूसरी बात मैं पुलिस बननी चाहती हूँ।
बहुत काम आया, उसका टूरिस्ट आया, उसका काम बहुत जलता है। यहाँ पे तो अभी बहुत कुछ बदला है। यहाँ का जो अभी गवर्नमेंट है, उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ किया यहाँ पे। 2-3 सालों से यहाँ पे बहुत टूरिज्म आ रहा है।
Has the post Article 370 abrogation change, the impact of it also percolated when it comes to the local fishing community?
हर एक यहाँ पे ₹10 कमा रहा है।
यहाँ पर लोग आते हैं घूमने के लिए, फिर वो खरीदारी करते हैं शॉल्स, पेपर मशी, अखरोट लकड़ का, क्योंकि यहाँ भी लोग है ना, रोजी इनकी भी चलती है यहाँ से।
After 38 years, I have seen tremendous change in this place.
हमारा कश्मीर जो है सबसे खूबसूरत और डल लेक, शांति है यहाँ पे।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you a quick recap of the top stories once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit, focus on bridging the gap between theory and practice on AI. Countries sharply divided over fossil fuels phase out at COP28. EU, US and Ireland urge phase out. OPEC opposes COP29 to be held in Azerbaijan. IMF grants Ukraine additional $900 million disbursement. Zelensky to meet US President and top congressional officials seeking continued military aid. High jumpers Varun Singh Bhatti and Nishat Kumar bagged gold at Khelo India Para Games. Former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has won this year's Diwali Stamp Lifetime Achievement Award. The event was held at UN headquarters and it acknowledges those who embody the spirit of Diwali and the victory of light over darkness. William Denslow gets us more from New York.
Kicking off the awards ceremony, the head of the European Union's UN delegation, Olof Skog, said the event recognises those that have made a difference beyond the halls of the United Nations, encapsulating the spirit of Diwali. Back in 2016, the US Postal Service issued a Forever Diwali stamp. A year later, the Diwali Foundation established the Diwali Stamp, the Power of One Award, which is given to those deemed to have worked selflessly, partially at the United Nations in an attempt to create a more secure, peaceful and perfect world for all. The event's been dubbed the Oscars of diplomacy.
Let us remember that every small light, no matter how small, can make a significant difference in dispelling the shadows. Let this Diwali be a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, our ability to find light in the darkest of times, and our unyielding belief in the power of goodness.
The recipient of the Diwali Stamp Power of One Lifetime Achievement Award this year was former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who served in the role from 2007 to 2016. Dignitaries at the event described him as a global champion of peace and security. Upon accepting the award, Ban Ki-moon said it was a great honour and thanked those for advancing light in a world of darkness. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
Back home, let's now take a look at what's lined up in both the Houses of Parliament today. The Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Second Amendment Bill 2023 and the Government of Union Territories Amendment Bill 2023 will be introduced for discussion and passage in the lower house of the Parliament. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will also introduce the appropriation bills for introduction, consideration and passage. While in the upper house of the Parliament, the repealing and amending Bill 2023 and the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners' appointment, conditions of service and term of office Bill 2023 will be moved for consideration and passage. Vikas Arthi is joining us to spell out more details. He's joining us from New Delhi. Vikas, we've just given a broad outline of the agenda that will be taken up in both of the Houses of Parliament today. Let us understand more from you about the significance of this agenda and how do we expect the day to be in Parliament today?
Right, Preeti. So two bills will be introduced by Home Minister Amit Shah, one related to Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Second Amendment Bill, and the other one is Union Territories Government Amendment Bill. These two bills will be introduced by Home Minister, and it is expected that both of these bills will be discussed and passed today itself. Later in the day, we will see that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will introduce and seek a discussion on appropriation bill number 3 and 4 for 23-24, and other than that, before that, she will also move that supplementary demand for grants for financial year 23-24 should be passed by the House after the discussion. As far as the upper house is concerned, in the Rajya Sabha, a very important bill is to be taken today, which is related to the appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and 2 election commissioners. This bill will provide the procedure and rules for appointment of Chief Election Commissioner and his 2 election commissioners. Earlier, the mechanism was that since Supreme Court had intervened in this appointment procedure because of a PIL which had been filed in the Supreme Court, and it gave a detailed guideline that how these appointments should be made. Later, the government brought this particular bill which provides that now any appointment of Chief Election Commissioner or other election commissioners will be done by a panel headed by Prime Minister, and leader of opposition will also be part of that panel, and 1 union minister has also been included through this particular amendment bill. So it's a very important bill for the functioning of Election Commission, and most of the parties were of the view that we need a proper bill, proper legislation for these appointments, since Supreme Court has given an interim guideline.
All right, Vikas, thank you for joining in with those details and helping us understand the legislative business that will be taken up today in Parliament. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday launched an initiative, Viksit Bharat at 2047, Voice of Youth. Now, the initiative aims to actively involve the youth of the country in the formulation of national plans, priorities and goals of the country. Viksit Bharat 2047 is a vision to make India a developed nation by 2047, the 100th year of its independence.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth via video conferencing on Monday. During the program, Prime Minister Modi addressed the Vice-Chancellors of universities, heads of institutes and faculty members in workshops organised at Raj Bhavans across the country to mark the beginning of this initiative. Prime Minister Modi said that youth power is both the agent of change and also the beneficiaries of change. The Prime Minister underlined that the idea of development can only begin with the I of the self.
माय गॉव के अंदर विकसित भारत @2047 सेक्शन लॉन्च हुआ है। इसमें विकसित भारत के विजन के लिए आइडियाज का एक सेक्शन है और क्योंकि आइडिया की शुरुआत ही आई से होती है, इसलिए इसमें ऐसे आइडिया चाहिए जिसमें वर्णन हो कि मैं स्वयं भी क्या कर सकता हूं। और आइडिया में जैसे आई सबसे पहले है, इंडिया में भी आई सबसे पहले है। यानी अगर हमें सफलता पानी है, लक्ष्यों की प्राप्ति करनी है, उचित परिणाम लाना है, तो स्वयं के आय से ही शुरू होता है।
The initiative aims to connect every youth of the country with the action plan of a developed India. Youth can share their suggestions on 5 different themes on the government portal MyGov. The best 10 suggestions will also win the prize.
ऑनलाइन आइडियाज के पोर्टल पर 5 अलग-अलग थीम्स पर सुझाव दिए जा सकते हैं। सबसे बेहतरीन 10 सुझावों के लिए पुरस्कार की भी व्यवस्था की गई है। साथियों, जब मैं सुझावों की बात करता हूं तो आपके सामने खुला आसमान है। हमें देश में एक ऐसी अमृत पीढ़ी को तैयार करना है जो आने वाले वर्षों में देश की कर्णधार बनेगी, जो देश को नेतृत्व और दिशा देगी।
The Indian Prime Minister also highlighted the role of educational institutions in personality development of an individual. Prime Minister Modi emphasized the need to create an Amrit generation which keeps the national interest paramount. The Prime Minister informed that India is going to be the leader in terms of working age population in the next 25 to 30 years, and the world recognizes this. Bureau Report, DD India.
Unique identity cards for the persons with disabilities not only encourages transparency, efficiency and ease of delivering the government benefit to the person with disabilities, but also ensures uniformity. Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Dr. Virendra Kumar, presented the UDIDs to beneficiaries, under which the ministry reached the mark of 10 million. An indigenously developed IQ testing tool was also launched. An international workshop on Indian scale for assessment of autism was also part of this event.
जो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की भावना है, सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और देश को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने में सभी का सामूहिक प्रयास, तो हमारे दिव्यांगजन भी आर्थिक, सामाजिक, शैक्षणिक दृष्टि से सशक्त हों, समृद्ध हों, उसके लिए विभाग के हमारे सभी अधिकारी और हमारी पूरी टीम, हमारे तीनों मंत्री हैं। हम सभी मिलकर इस क्षेत्र में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के 2047 के भारत को विकसित राष्ट्र बनाने के सपने को साकार करने में सामाजिक न्याय अधिकारिता मंत्रालय पूरी जिम्मेवारी के साथ में अपना दायित्व निभाने के लिए आगे बढ़ रहा है।
And up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. Chief Minister Designate of Madhya Pradesh, Mohan Yadav, will take oath on Wednesday, as Shivraj Singh Chauhan tendered his resignation earlier on Monday. Along with him, will two Deputy Chief Minister Designates also take oath. The Indian Armed Forces contingent comprising of 45 personnel is in Hanoi, Vietnam to participate in the 4th edition of Joint Military Exercise Winbacks 2023. The exercise is being conducted from 11th to 21st December this year. The Vietnam People's Army contingent will also be represented by 45 personnel. Tamil Nadu government reviewed the oil spillage mitigation work in North Chennai, with the Ennore Creek area being affected the most. Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary Shivdas Meena chaired a high-level committee meeting to review the mitigation work. The oil spill has adversely impacted people living in the nearby fishing villages. As Chennai still reels under the effects of Mibjong, a central team of members from Delhi arrived in the city for spot assessment of the situation of Cyclone Mibjong. Tibetan Buddhist monks offer prayers for peace and to dispel the evil of the previous year. The Tibetan religious ceremony called Gutor is held on the 29th of the 12th Tibetan month, with its focus on driving out all negativity, including evil spirits and misfortunes of the past year, and starting the new year in a peaceful and auspicious way. We're heading for a short break on DD India News Hour, but still lots to come. Up next, we tell you ahead how US markets fared, driven by inflation readings and Federal Reserve's policy announcement. United Auto Workers file unfair labor practice charges against 3 foreign automakers. And in cricket, India and South Africa to play the second T20 match, but rain threat looms large.
Story of Dal Lake of Naya Kashmir.
मैं बड़ी होकर ऑफिसर बनने चाहती हूँ, दूसरी बात मैं पुलिस बननी चाहती हूँ।
बहुत काम आया, उसका टूरिस्ट आया, उसका काम बहुत जलता है। यहाँ पे तो अभी बहुत कुछ बदला है। यहाँ का जो अभी गवर्नमेंट्स है, उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ किया है यहाँ पे। 2-3 सालों से यहाँ पे बहुत टूरिज्म आ रहा है।
Has the post Article 370 abrogation change, the impact of it also percolated when it comes to the local fishing community?
हर एक यहाँ पे रुपया 10 कमा रहा है।
यहाँ पर लोग आते हैं घूमने के लिए, फिर वो खरीदारी करते हैं शॉल्स, पेपर मशी, अखरोट लकड़ का, क्योंकि यहाँ भी लोग है ना, रोजी इनकी भी चलती है यहाँ से।
After 38 years, I have seen tremendous change in this place.
हमारा कश्मीर जो है सबसे खूबसूरत डल लेक, शांति है यहाँ पे।
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's get to updates from the world of business now. US stocks registered modest gains on Monday but managed to close at new highs for the year ahead of major market catalysts this week that include inflation readings and the Federal Reserve's policy announcement. Now, this will strongly influence investor expectations on the path of interest rates. Market watchers increasingly believe that the central bank is done with its interest rate hike cycle and could potentially cut rates in the first half of next year. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul announced a $10 billion partnership to make New York a semiconductor capital of the world on Monday. New York State will establish a next-generation semiconductor research and development center at Albany Nanotech Complex together with IBM, Micron, Applied Materials, Tokyo Electron, and others. The partnership will also support the long-term growth of New York's tech economy and create and retain thousands of direct, indirect, and union construction jobs. The United Auto Workers Union filed unfair labor practice charges against Honda Motors, Hyundai Motors, and Volkswagen on Monday, citing aggressive anti-union campaigns to deter workers from organizing. Last month, UAW had launched a first-of-its-kind push to publicly organize the entire non-union auto sector after new contracts with the Detroit 3 automakers, to which workers responded in large numbers. The UAW filed charges over actions taken by Honda in Indiana, Hyundai in Alabama, and Volkswagen in Tennessee in response to the unionization of factory workers. After business, we now turn focus to sports. High jumpers Varun Singh Bhatti and Nishat Kumar won a gold medal each on the opening day of the athletics competition at the inaugural Khelo India Para Games. Bhatti cleared 1.83 meters to beat Shailesh Kumar to finish on the top of the podium in T43, T63 combined category. Nishant clinched the top spot in high jump in T47 category. Nishad leapt 1.95 meters for the gold and Rampal took the silver, while Chandresh Bagada bagged the bronze. Monu Gangas won gold in men's discus throw in F11 category with an effort of 34.23 meters. In the men's 100 meters dash, Pankaj Bhuwe clocked 12.41 seconds to win gold. Avnil Kumar bagged silver, while Mangat Hembram took bronze. Chirag won the 100 meters gold in the T35, T36 category by registering a time of 13.49 seconds. Anubhav Chaudhary was second and Narayan Thakur was third. Vinod Kumar took the gold in 100 meters dash in T38 category, clocking 13.07 seconds.
That we saw very early in the morning.
In cricket, India takes on South Africa in the second T20 match at Port Elizabeth on Tuesday after the first match was washed out. But the rain threat looms large as there is forecast for downpour at St. George's Park. Now, these T20 nationals are the last competitive matches South Africa will play before they have to name their T20 World Cup squad. India has these matches and one more series against Afghanistan in January. So the importance of finding right combinations is amplified for both the teams. The Indian team is led by Surya Kumar Yadav for the three-match T20 International Series, while Aiden Markram heads the South African team. The Indians come into the match on a high note, having won the series against the Aussies on their home soil. The International Cricket Council has announced the revised schedule for the Under-19 Men's Cricket World Cup, which is set to be held in South Africa. The tournament will take place from January 19th to February 11th in 2024. The 15th edition of the tournament was originally scheduled to take place in Sri Lanka, but it was relocated to South Africa following ICC's decision to suspend the island nation in November. The schedule seeks the new host kick off its campaign against the West Indies, while reigning champions India start the defense of their crown a day later against Bangladesh. In the group listings, India is joined by Bangladesh, Ireland and USA. In Group A, Group B consists of England, South Africa, West Indies and Scotland. Group C features Australia, Sri Lanka, Zimbabwe and Namibia, while Group D consists of Afghanistan, Pakistan, New Zealand and Nepal. Indian Grandmaster Vidit Gujrati defeated compatriot Arjun Erigaisi by 0.5 points to win the 9th Vugar Gashimov Memorial Chess Tournament in Azerbaijan. Vidit finished the 10-player tournament with 22 points, while Arjun had 21.5 points after 27 rounds of rapid and blitz games. Vidit drew 7, lost 1 and won 2 matches in rapid time controls to finish second behind Azerbaijan's Aydin Suleimanli with 11 points in 9 rounds. Vidit finished on top alongside Hungary's Richard Rapport with 12 points in the double round robin blitz format. He came out as a winner against the local favourites Nijat Abbasov, Temur Rajabov and Shakhriyar Mamadeirov. The Turkish Football Federation has suspended all the leagues after Ankara Gucu's president Faruk Koca punched the referee in the face at the end of their Super League home match against Rizespor. Koca entered the field and hit referee Halilumut Meler when the final whistle blew after Rizespor scored a 97th minute equalizer in the 1-each draw. Ankara Gucu fans invaded the pitch after the game and Miller was also kicked when he fell, though it was unclear who his assailants were. Miller eventually made it to the dressing room with the help of police. Interior Minister Ali Yerelakawa said in a post on X that a detention order has been issued for Koca. 2 people have already been detained as part of the judicial investigation into the incident. A FIFA referee since 2017, 37-year-old Miller took charge of Lazio's Champions League group game with Celtic on November 28th. Referees in Turkey are often criticized by club managers and presidents for their decisions, but are rarely the target of violent attacks. All right, with that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.